I never thought I'd have to call the police on my own mother-in-law. But when I saw what she was doing to my 6-month-old daughter through that hidden camera, I didn't just call 911. I screamed for them to hurry while racing home, breaking every traffic law that existed. My name is Bridget. I'm 29 years old, and I work as an elementary school librarian in a quiet Connecticut suburb where the biggest drama is usually who forgot to return their library books on time. This is the story of how my husband's mother, who we all called Nana Joyce, nearly destroyed our baby girl's life while pretending to be the world's most devoted grandmother. You know how people always say to trust your gut? That little voice that whispers something's wrong even when everything looks perfect on the surface? I ignored that voice for 6 months. 6 months of watching my baby girl Hazel come home from her grandmother's house covered in mysterious rashes. 6 months of doctors being baffled by sudden allergies that made no medical sense. 6 months of my mother-in-law telling me I was just a paranoid first-time mother who didn't know what she was doing. The morning I installed that camera, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely connect it to the Wi-Fi. It was disguised as a teddy bear's eye, sitting innocently on the shelf in Hazel's nursery, watching over her crib like a guardian angel. 24 hours later, that same camera would capture evidence so disturbing that the prosecutor said it was one of the worst cases of intentional child endangerment she'd ever seen from a family member. But let me start by telling you who we all were before everything fell apart. I'm Bridget Coleman. Well, Bridget Matthews now after marrying Warren. I grew up in a normal family where grandmothers baked cookies and told stories, not whatever Joyce turned out to be. Warren and I met at a charity book drive 5 years ago. He was this sweet, genuine guy who actually read the books he donated instead of just clearing out his shelves. He had this way of laughing that made everyone around him smile, and these green eyes that crinkled at the corners when he was really happy. Warren is 31. Works as a financial advisor at a firm downtown, and until this all happened, he was the ultimate mama's boy. Not in a creepy way, just in that devoted son way where he called her every Sunday, fixed things around her house, and always took her side in any discussion. His father, Robert, had died 2 years before Hazel was born, leaving Joyce alone in their big colonial house with nothing but time and whatever dark thoughts were brewing in her mind. Joyce Matthews seemed like the perfect mother-in-law at first. 63 years old, always impeccably dressed in those matching sweater sets with pearl necklaces, her silver hair styled in a bob that never had a strand out of place. She was a retired nurse, which made everyone trust her even more with the baby. "I've handled hundreds of babies," she'd say with that smile that I later realized never quite reached her eyes. "I know exactly what they need." And then there was Hazel. My sweet, perfect Hazel, who entered the world on a snowy January morning with a full head of dark hair and the tiniest fingers I'd ever seen. She was everything Warren and I had dreamed about during those 3 years of trying to conceive. Every milestone felt like a miracle. Her first smile at 6 weeks, the way she'd grip my finger while nursing, those little cooing sounds she'd make when Warren sang to her at bedtime. We were the picture of happiness that everyone envied. The young couple with the good jobs, the renovated craftsman house with the white picket fence, literally, and the beautiful baby who looked like a Gerber commercial. Warren's co-workers would joke about how he had it all. My fellow librarians at Riverside Elementary would stop by during my maternity leave with casseroles and hand-knitted blankets, telling me how lucky I was to have such a hands-on grandmother to help out. If only they knew that behind Joyce's offers to babysit every Saturday, behind her expensive gifts and constant presence in our home, was a woman systematically poisoning my infant daughter. Not to kill her, no. That would have been too simple for Joyce. She wanted Hazel alive but dependent, sick but treatable. But only by her. She was creating a situation where she would be forever needed, forever in control, forever the savior of the sick grandchild only she could cure. The day I finally saw the truth, Warren and I were sitting in that Italian restaurant, him talking about quarterly reports while our daughter was being tortured 20 minutes away. That's what still haunts me. We were eating bruschetta and discussing vacation plans while Joyce was rubbing concentrated allergens into our baby's skin, watching her scream and calling it grandmother's love. Life was picture perfect when we brought baby Hazel home from the hospital on that January afternoon. The snow was falling softly outside our craftsman home, and Warren had lined the pathway with battery-operated candles to welcome us back. I remember stepping through our front door, holding this tiny 7-pound miracle, feeling like my real life was finally beginning. Warren and I had been married for 3 years, and we'd planned everything down to the smallest detail. The nursery walls were painted in the softest shade of butter yellow because we'd wanted to be surprised by the baby's gender. I'd spent months researching the safest crib, the best organic mattress, the gentlest laundry detergents. My sister Vera used to laugh at my color-coded spreadsheets, tracking different baby product reviews. But I wanted everything to be perfect. Allergies ran in my family, my brother couldn't even be in the same room as a peanut, so I was determined to do everything right from the start. Joyce had been ecstatic about becoming a grandmother. The day we told her I was pregnant, she actually cried real tears of joy, clutching Warren's face between her manicured hands. "My baby is having a baby," she'd squealed, already pulling up designer nursery furniture on her phone. "We have so much shopping to do." At first, her enthusiasm felt like a blessing. My own parents lived in Arizona, only able to visit a few times a year. My mother would FaceTime daily, but it wasn't the same as having someone nearby. Joyce lived just 20 minutes away in Westfield, in the same colonial house where Warren grew up. After Robert's sudden heart attack 2 years earlier, she'd been rattling around that big house alone, maintaining her weekly bridge club and garden society meetings, but clearly desperately lonely. "She needs this," Warren had explained one night when I was 7 months pregnant, feeling the baby kick as we lay in bed. Since Dad died, she calls me 3 times a day just to hear another voice. Maybe having a grandchild will help her heal. I understood grief. I'd lost my grandmother the year before, the one who taught me to love books and stories, who'd inspired me to become a librarian. So when Joyce started showing up with shopping bags full of baby clothes, each outfit more expensive than anything Warren and I would buy, I smiled and said thank you. When she insisted on hosting my baby shower and invited 70 people, half of whom I'd never met, I let her have her moment. The problems started small, so small I thought I was imagining them. Joyce would make little comments about my choice to breastfeed. "Formula is so much more convenient, dear. You can't measure what the baby's getting with nursing." She'd criticize the organic baby food maker Warren's parents had bought us. All this fuss over organic. We raised Warren on regular food and he turned out fine. But it was after Hazel was born that Joyce's behavior intensified. She was at the hospital within an hour of delivery, despite us asking for a few hours alone first. "I couldn't wait," she'd announced, sweeping past the nurse and immediately trying to take Hazel from my arms. "Nana needs her snuggle time." By the time Hazel was 2 months old, Joyce was at our house almost daily. She had a key, which Warren had given her years ago, and she'd use it liberally. I'd come downstairs in my nursing nightgown to find her in my kitchen, reorganizing my cabinets because things should be more efficient. She'd already be holding Hazel, who she'd taken from the bassinet without asking. "You looked so tired, dear," she'd say with that concerned smile. "I thought you needed the sleep." When I returned to work at Riverside Elementary after my 12-week maternity leave, Joyce pounced on the opportunity. "You know, Bridget," she said one evening, having invited herself for dinner again, "it breaks my heart thinking of little Hazel in some germy daycare center. All those other children with their runny noses and sticky fingers." Warren nodded along, cutting his pork chop. "Mom's got a point, Bridge. The daycare costs are insane anyway." Joyce leaned forward, her eyes bright with something I should have recognized as calculation. "What if I watched her? Not every day, you need your independence, of course. But maybe Saturdays? Give you two some couple time? Lord knows marriages need tending after babies arrive." She said it so smoothly, like she was doing us this enormous favor. Warren's face lit up immediately. "Mom, that would be amazing. Right, Bridge?" I sat there, my fork suspended over my plate, something cold settling in my stomach. But what could I say? That I didn't trust his widowed mother who'd raised him successfully? That something about her eagerness made my skin crawl? "Every Saturday seems like a lot for you, Joyce," I tried carefully. She waved her hand dismissively, her wedding ring catching the light, the matching band to Robert's she still wore like a shield. "Nonsense, Grandma needs her bonding time. Besides, you young people deserve some freedom. When Warren was a baby, I never got a break. I was alone so much while Robert worked. You're lucky to have me so close, so available, so willing." The way she emphasized each word felt like nails being hammered into a coffin I couldn't yet see. The first few Saturdays seemed fine, even wonderful. Joyce would arrive at 9 a.m. sharp, carrying a designer diaper bag she'd bought specifically for her house visits, already dressed like she was attending a country club luncheon. She'd sweep into our foyer with such enthusiasm, arms immediately outstretched for Hazel, practically vibrating with excitement. "There's my precious angel," she'd coo, scooping Hazel from my arms before I could properly say good morning. "Nana and you are going to have such adventures today. Mommy and Daddy need their grown-up time, don't they?" Warren would beam at this scene, pulling me close and whispering about how lucky we were. But I noticed Joyce never asked what Hazel's schedule was, never inquired about her preferred nap times or feeding routine. When I tried to give her the printed sheet I'd made with all of Hazel's information, she'd laughed and tucked it into her bag without looking. "Bridget, sweetheart, I raised 2 boys. I think I can handle 1 tiny baby girl." By the second month of this arrangement, things started changing. Hazel would come home fussy and irritable, refusing her bottle, arching her back when I tried to comfort her. Her usual easy temperament was replaced by a cranky, uncomfortable baby who cried differently, these sharp, pained wails that made my chest tight with anxiety. Then came the physical symptoms. Red patches appeared on her perfect pink skin, angry and raised like something was burning her from within. Her cheeks, which had always been smooth and soft, developed rough, scaly patches that no amount of gentle moisturizer could soothe. "She probably just has sensitive skin," Joyce said dismissively when I brought it up. The following Saturday, "Warren had the same thing as a baby. Some children are just delicate. You can't protect her from everything, Bridget." The way she said my name, with just a hint of condescension, made me want to snatch Hazel back and never let her go. But Warren was already kissing the baby goodbye, grabbing his car keys, talking about the farmer's market we should visit. By month 4, it was beyond rashes. Hazel couldn't keep formula down anymore, projectile vomiting after almost every feeding. Her breathing became labored and wheezy, especially after returning from Joyce's care. I spent nights sitting up in the rocking chair, holding her upright so she could breathe better, Googling symptoms on my phone while tears ran down my face. The breaking point came during her 6-month checkup. Dr. Peterson, who'd been our pediatrician since Hazel's first week, looked deeply concerned as she examined the extensive rashes now covering Hazel's torso and limbs. "Has anything in her environment changed?" she asked, making notes on her tablet. "New foods, new products, different caregivers?" "Nothing," I insisted, running through our routine in my mind. "We use the same organic, fragrance-free everything. I make her food myself from organic vegetables. The only time she's away from us is Saturdays with my mother-in-law." Dr. Peterson ordered comprehensive allergy testing. When the results came back a week later, she called us in immediately. The list was staggering. Dairy, eggs, strawberries, tomatoes, several tree nuts, and bizarrely, lavender and eucalyptus oils, things babies rarely encounter enough to develop allergies to. "This is highly unusual," Dr. Peterson said, studying the results with a frown. "These aren't typical genetic allergies. The pattern suggests repeated, deliberate exposure to allergens. Her system has been overwhelmed. Has anyone been giving her foods or products you're not aware of?" That night, I confronted Joyce at our weekly Sunday dinner, another tradition she'd insisted on maintaining. Warren had grilled steaks while Joyce sat at our dining table, cutting her meat with precise surgical movements. "Joyce, I need to know exactly what you feed Hazel on Saturdays." She laughed, that tinkling sound that never seemed genuine. "The same things you do, dear, though I do think you're a bit extreme with all your organic nonsense. Children need to build immunity." "The doctor says she's developed severe allergies, life-threatening ones." Joyce set down her fork slowly, deliberately. "Are you suggesting I'm harming my granddaughter?" The silence stretched taut between us. Warren jumped in immediately, his voice defensive. "Mom would never hurt Hazel. Bridget, come on, you're being paranoid." But Joyce hadn't actually denied anything. She just stared at me over her wine glass, swirling the Merlot slowly, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Maybe," she said softly, but each word hit like ice. Just not cut out for motherhood, Bridget. It's harder than being a little school librarian, isn't it? Some women simply aren't natural mothers. There's no shame in admitting you're overwhelmed. Warren reached for my hand under the table, but I pulled away. Something in Joyce's eyes, a glint of satisfaction at my distress, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't neglect or ignorance. This was intentional. The following Saturday, Hazel came back with hives covering her entire body, her eyes swollen nearly shut. As I rushed to give her antihistamines, Joyce stood in my doorway, watching with an expression I can only describe as curious, like a scientist observing an experiment. "Babies are more resilient than you think," she said calmly, while my child wheezed in my arms. After that Saturday, when Hazel came back covered in hives, her tiny eyes swollen like a boxer who'd lost a fight, something inside me snapped into cold, clear focus. Warren had rushed to the pharmacy for more antihistamines while I sat in the bathroom, lukewarm water running over Hazel's inflamed skin as she whimpered against my chest. Joyce had left immediately after dropping her off, claiming she had a bridge tournament, but not before commenting that perhaps we should consider toughening up Hazel's immune system. That night, after Warren had fallen asleep, I called my sister Vera in California. It was past midnight there, but she answered on the second ring, instantly alert when she heard my voice. "Bridge? What's wrong? Is the baby okay?" I told her everything. The escalating allergies, Joyce's dismissive comments, the way Hazel only seemed to get worse after Saturdays with her grandmother. Vera listened without interrupting until I finished with what the doctor had said about deliberate exposure. "You need proof," Vera said firmly. "Warren won't believe it without seeing it himself. His mother has him completely under her spell. I can't accuse his mother of poisoning our baby without evidence. He'll think I've lost my mind. Then get evidence. Put up a camera. Bridge, listen to me. A grandmother who insists on alone time every single week, who criticizes your parenting constantly, who seems satisfied when the baby is sick, that's not normal. That's dangerous." The next morning, Tuesday, I told Warren I was taking Hazel to a baby music class. Instead, I drove to Best Buy, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The electronics associate, a young kid with bright blue hair, helped me pick out a tiny camera that looked exactly like a teddy bear's eye. "A lot of parents use these for nanny cams," he said, showing me how to connect it to my phone. "The app lets you watch live or review recorded footage, motion-activated, night vision, the works." I paid in cash. I don't know why, but using our credit card felt like betrayal, even though I was protecting our daughter. On the drive home, Hazel babbled in her car seat, and I made a promise to her reflection in my rearview mirror. "Mommy's going to keep you safe, sweet girl, no matter what it costs me." Wednesday evening, while Warren was at his gym class, I installed the camera in Hazel's nursery. The teddy bear sat perfectly on the shelf, its little camera eye angled directly at the crib and changing table. I tested the app multiple times, watching myself wave at the bear from different angles. The video quality was crystal clear, the audio picking up even Hazel's quiet breathing. Thursday, I could barely concentrate at work. My colleague at the library, Mrs. Chen, asked if I was feeling all right after I misshelved an entire cart of picture books in the wrong section. "Just tired," I lied, thinking about the camera waiting in Hazel's room like a sentinel. Friday night came too quickly. Joyce called to confirm she'd be there at 9 sharp, her voice cheerful and grandmother sweet. "I have such special plans for our girl tomorrow. We're going to have so much fun, aren't we, Warren?" She was on speakerphone, and Warren grinned at me from across the kitchen. "Thanks again, Mom. Bridget and I really need this time together." "Oh, I know exactly what you need," Joyce replied, and something in her tone made my stomach turn. That night, I activated the camera through the app, checking one more time that it was recording properly. Warren was already in bed, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware of what I'd done. I kissed Hazel's forehead as I laid her in her crib, breathing in her sweet baby scent, the one that still remained despite whatever Joyce had been doing to her. "Tomorrow, baby girl," I whispered. "Tomorrow, Mommy finds out the truth." Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, matching my mood. Joyce burst through our front door at 8:57 a.m., 3 minutes early, using her key without knocking. She was wearing a pristine white blazer with navy slacks, her silver hair freshly styled, looking like she was heading to chair a board meeting rather than babysit an infant. "There's my precious angel," she sang out, already reaching for Hazel before I'd even said good morning. She lifted the baby from my arms with practiced ease, immediately beginning her ritual of excessive cooing. "Nana has such special plans today. Such special plans." "What kind of plans?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady and casual. Joyce's smile was sharp as cut glass. "Oh, just our little secrets. Every grandma needs special traditions with her grandbaby. Private bonding time. Isn't that right, Warren?" My husband appeared from the hallway, already dressed for our supposed date, keys jangling in his hand. He kissed his mother's cheek, then Hazel's forehead, completely oblivious to the undercurrent of tension between Joyce and me. "You're the best, Mom. Bridget, grab your purse. I made reservations at that Italian place you love, Tuscan Dreams." As Warren ushered me toward the door, I caught one last glimpse of Joyce's face. She was watching me with an expression of triumph, Hazel already fussing in her arms. The door closed behind us with a click that sounded like a trap springing shut. At Tuscan Dreams, Warren was talking about his colleague's promotion while I pushed my caprese salad around my plate, my phone burning against my thigh in my pocket. Every nerve in my body screamed to check the camera feed, but Warren kept reaching across the table, holding my hand, telling me how beautiful I looked and how much we needed this time together. 20 minutes into our meal, just after the entrees arrived, I couldn't take it anymore. "I need to use the restroom," I said, standing so quickly I nearly knocked over my water glass. Warren looked concerned. "You okay? You've seemed tense all morning." "Just my stomach. I'll be right back." I practically ran to the bathroom, locking myself in a stall with shaking hands as I opened the camera app. The feed loaded slowly, each second feeling like an hour, until suddenly there was Joyce's face filling my screen, and what I saw next made me grip the stall door to keep from collapsing. Joyce had completely transformed Hazel's nursery into something that looked like a twisted laboratory. Bottles of essential oils covered every surface of the changing table. Lavender, eucalyptus, tea tree, peppermint, at least a dozen amber glass bottles with handwritten labels. She was holding Hazel down on the changing pad, the baby already red-faced and crying, systematically applying the oils to her skin with cotton balls. "This will toughen you up, sweet angel," Joyce cooed in a sing-song voice that made my blood run cold. "Your pathetic mother wants to keep you weak and dependent on her, but Nana knows better. Nana knows what you really need." She produced a bottle that looked like Hazel's regular formula, but then reached into her designer bag and pulled out 3 unmarked containers. She added drops from each one into the bottle, shaking it carefully while Hazel screamed. "A little bit of everything you're supposedly allergic to, my darling. Dairy proteins, egg whites, and my special blend of nut oils. Building immunity the old-fashioned way, the way I did with your daddy and Uncle Christopher. They survived it, and so will you." But the most horrifying moment came next. Joyce held Hazel up to eye level, the baby's face blotchy and swollen, speaking directly to her with a smile that belonged in a nightmare. "When you're older, your body won't tolerate anything unless Nana prepares it. Mommy won't be able to feed you without making you sick. Only Nana will know the exact combinations to keep you healthy. You'll have to live with me eventually. Mommy and Daddy will have no choice but to bring you to Nana's house permanently." She set Hazel back down and pulled out a journal, making notes while the baby writhed. Week 24, increased oil concentration to 50%, added honey to the formula base, despite pediatric warnings. Subject showing expected inflammatory response. Mother remains unaware of conditioning program. Honey. She was giving honey to a 6-month-old baby, something every pediatric guide warns against because of botulism risk. This wasn't ignorance. This was deliberate, calculated abuse wrapped in a grandmother's smile. I ran back to the table, my whole body shaking so violently I could barely speak. Warren was cutting into his chicken parmesan when I shoved my phone in his face. "Look at this. Look at what your mother is doing right now." His face went from confusion to horror to rage in the span of 3 seconds. On the screen, Joyce was now rubbing something that looked like peanut oil directly onto Hazel's neck, while the baby's cries had turned to weak whimpers. "Oh my God," Warren breathed, already standing, throwing cash on the table. "Oh my God, Bridget, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." "Call 911, I commanded, already running toward the door. "Tell them it's child endangerment, medical abuse. Tell them we have video evidence. Tell them to send an ambulance." We ran to Warren's car in the rain, him on the phone with the dispatcher while I stayed connected to the camera feed, narrating what was happening. "She's putting something else on her now. It looks like honey. She's feeding her honey directly. The baby's barely responding." Warren drove like a man possessed, running red lights, taking corners so sharp I slammed against the door. "My mother is poisoning our baby," he kept saying to the dispatcher, his voice cracking. "We have live video. Please hurry." Through the camera, I watched Joyce pick up Hazel, who had gone frighteningly quiet, her little body limp and red. "Time for a nice nap after our treatment," Joyce said cheerfully to the unresponsive baby. "Nana's special girl is getting so much stronger." We screeched into our driveway just as 2 police cars and an ambulance pulled up, sirens blaring. The officers didn't wait for permission. Officer Hendricks, a tall woman with kind eyes that had turned steel hard, kicked in our front door while her partner radioed for backup. Through the window, we could see Joyce in the nursery, still holding Hazel, surrounded by her collection of poisons disguised as remedies. When she saw the officers, her mask didn't slip so much as shatter completely. "This is my grandchild," she shrieked, clutching Hazel tighter. "I have rights. You don't understand. Bridget is an unfit mother. She doesn't know what this baby needs. I'm saving her." "Ma'am, step away from the infant now," Officer Hendricks commanded, her hand on her weapon. The paramedics rushed past everyone, one of them physically extracting Hazel from Joyce's arms while she screamed about grandmother's rights and medical expertise. They immediately began administering antihistamines and oxygen, their faces grim as they worked on my barely conscious baby. The paramedics worked on Hazel for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. When her eyes finally fluttered open and she let out a weak cry, I collapsed against Warren, both of us sobbing in our driveway while the neighbors gathered on their lawns, recording everything on their phones. The ambulance rushed her to Connecticut Children's Medical Center with us following behind, Warren gripping the steering wheel while tears streamed down his face. "Mama," Hazel whimpered when they finally let me hold her in the emergency room, her first word spoken through swollen lips while hooked to IV antihistamines and monitoring equipment. That single word broke something inside me, and I held her against my chest, promising over and over that Nana would never touch her again. The police found everything in Joyce's designer bag, 3 containers of concentrated allergen solutions she'd been systematically introducing into Hazel's system, a journal documenting her 24-week conditioning program with detailed notes about dosages and reactions, pages of research about induced allergies and dependency. She'd been studying this for months, possibly since before Hazel was even born. The most chilling entry was from week 1. "The child must need me. If she cannot eat without becoming ill, except when I prepare her food with my specific antidote combinations, they will have no choice but to give her to me. Warren will come home where he belongs. The librarian will fade away." During the trial 6 months later, other disturbing details emerged. Joyce's own medical records showed a pattern of mysterious illnesses in both Warren and his brother Christopher during childhood, illnesses that miraculously resolved when they left for college. Christopher, who lived in Seattle and had been estranged from Joyce for 5 years, testified via video link about his own childhood memories of getting violently sick whenever he ate anything their mother hadn't prepared. "I thought I had every allergy under the sun," Christopher said, his voice shaking. "It wasn't until I moved 3,000 miles away that I realized I could eat normally. When I confronted her, she said I was being dramatic and ungrateful. I haven't spoken to her since." The prosecution presented evidence that Joyce had done this before, with her own children, though less severely. The introduction of the internet had given her access to more sophisticated methods. She'd spent hours on medical forums, learning exactly how to create dependencies without causing immediate life-threatening reactions, at least not intentionally. Dr. Peterson testified about the unusual pattern of Hazel's allergies, how they didn't follow any genetic or environmental logic. In 30 years of practice, I've never seen anything like this. This was systematic poisoning designed to create specific medical dependencies. Joyce was ultimately convicted of aggravated child abuse, assault with a dangerous weapon, and reckless endangerment. The judge, Xiao, grandmother herself, was visibly disgusted as she sentenced Joyce to 3 years in prison with mandatory psychological evaluation. Joyce screamed as they led her away, still insisting she was helping, that we didn't understand her love, that Hazel needed her. Warren fell apart completely. We spent months in therapy, both individual and couples counseling, working through his guilt and trauma. "She was my mother," he'd say over and over. "How did I not see it? How did I let her near our baby?" The therapist explained that children of manipulative parents often can't see the abuse clearly, especially when it's wrapped in love and care. Warren had been conditioned his entire life to see his mother's control as devotion. It took almost a year of treatment to reverse most of the damage Joyce had done to Hazel. The allergist worked with us to slowly desensitize her system, though she still has sensitivities to lavender and eucalyptus that may be permanent. Every rash, every sneeze, every minor reaction sends me into a panic that I'm learning to manage with my own therapy. We moved to Oregon 8 months after Joyce's arrest, needing a fresh start 3,000 miles from the house where it all happened. Warren legally severed ties with his mother, changing our phone numbers and leaving no forwarding address. We found out through his brother that Joyce writes letters from prison, still maintaining she was helping, still demanding to see her baby. Last week, Hazel turned 2. She's thriving in our new home, running through our backyard in Portland, laughing at the rain, eating regular food without fear. She doesn't remember Nana Joyce, and if I have anything to say about it, she never will. The camera footage that saved her life sits in a safety deposit box, evidence we hope to never need again. Warren and I are stronger now, bound together by trauma, but also by our fierce determination to protect our daughter. We're expecting another baby in 3 months, and this time, we know exactly what to look for. Trust isn't given automatically to anyone, not even family, especially not family. To anyone watching this, please remember that predators don't always look dangerous. Sometimes they wear grandmother's cardigans and carry expensive diaper bags. Sometimes they say, "I love you," while hurting you. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. That uncomfortable feeling in your gut exists for a reason. Listen to it. It might save your child's life. If you found this story helpful or eye-opening, please like this video and share it with other parents who need to hear it. Comment below if you've experienced anything similar, because sharing our stories helps protect other families. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories that could make a difference in your life. Remember, protecting our children isn't paranoid, it's parenting.